Hi everyone, it's Shari Carroll for SimonsStamp.com, and I have a color coordinates for you. And this one I kind of think is an all year round card making color scheme. So I'm starting off with 5 colors here. They're all really nice pastels. So I'll start you off. My first one is Winter Sky, and then I have Sea Glass, one of my favorites, which is Fossil, Dusty Sage, and Duckling. I have used the basic rectangle dies from Simons Stamp, and these are 2 of the smallest dies. And I have just die cut some Nina White cardstock to create a stencil. So here's the die set, and it's just the 2 of the smallest ones. So I've spaced them far enough away to where I can use them as a stencil. And then also I have my blending tool and 5 of the blending tool pads, 1 for each of the colors. I'll be color blocking my background, and right now I'm adding some adhesive to the back of my card panel here, and I'm placing it down on my grid sheet. I will be using this grid to keep me lined up so that my rectangles are really well lined up. If I get one kind of askew, I'll probably get them all askew. So if I start off with them squared to the paper, I think I'll be all right. I'm starting off with the Duckling ink, and I'm using the larger rectangle that's on the bottom, and I'm holding my paper in place using that grid line and just pressing that down. And I'm tapping into my ink, tapping onto the paper just to get some first layers of ink down. I can always go back and add a darker layer, but for right now I'm just adding just a light amount of ink with a really light touch with the blending tool. Continue to re-ink and blot off until you're happy with the color, and here I've chosen just to leave this really light to begin with, and I will go back in and darken it a little bit later. The next color I'll be working with is the Fossil. I'm just turning my stencil clockwise and I'm lining it up again using that grid paper and my cardstock. I'll do the same process using the Fossil ink, and it does take a little bit to get your blending pad seasoned with the ink, so it might take a few applications to get enough ink on there to where you start seeing color through your stencil. If you notice down at the bottom, I do see the yellow rectangle that I've already colored, and I've chosen all of these colors in this color combination to be able to stack on top of each other, so you won't get any really weird colors in between. So they all work together really nicely. So the Fossil's going down really lightly. I'll continue this until I get a little bit darker hue. Okay, I'm just about done. It does look really light as you're looking through the paper, but once you remove that stencil, you can really see the color. My next color is Sea Glass, and this is a really light color. I have flipped my stencil over, so I'm putting my blues and greens on the back side and my grays and yellows on the front side. When I remove the paper, you can see how really nice and faded that is. I'm using Dusty Sage, and I'm also using a smaller rectangle, and I'm going over that Fossil area. And Dusty Sage is a little bit stronger of a color, so you will need to blot off before using it through your stencil. I am using some Post-it tape to adjust the width of my rectangle, and for this one I'll be using my Duckling again. I'm just changing out that pad. So this will give me just a narrow line of color, and I don't need to worry about going in a swirling motion. I can just go back and forth with my blending tool and re-inking in between. This is also going over that sea glass, so we'll get a little bit of green look to that right side. To make a square for my next color, I have run my tape vertically onto that smaller rectangle, and I can get ready to use my Winter Sky. And working in such a small area, I can go in up and down and across motions, or I can do a swirling pattern. So there I have a nice little block of blue color that sits well on top of the yellow and also that sea glass color. I have die cut the script thanks out of Nina cardstock 3 times, and I have glued those together, and I've also colored a strip of paper using the sea glass paper. I've added a strip of my adhesive tape to my card, and I've left a little gap for my dimensional flower that I've already put down. So I'm just going to peel this off, and now I can place my paper and make sure I have it lined up straight right onto the card. And once I have that strip in place, I can turn it over and snip it off with my scissors. To glue my thanks down, I'm using my 2-way glue pen and just adding dots. This is the same way that I put my 3 layers of my die cuts together. I add the dots to the back, and then I stack them together and make sure they're really well lined up. I did the same for the flower that is on the card. I just die cut it 3 times and then added that glue in between. Here's a look at my finished card. I have put the panel onto a top folding note card. You can really see the dimension of the die cuts when they're stacked up, and I really like how the color block background all came together. All the colors go really well together, especially when they're layered over top of each other. So I hope you've enjoyed this color coordinates for card making for all year round, and thanks so much for watching.